The first episode of Solo Leveling Season 2 starts off with Sung Jin-Woo waking up to his younger sister, Sung Jina's phone call, asking where he was since she needed him for her parent-teacher conference that Jin-Woo had totally forgotten about. Although basically a completely different person now, Jin-Woo makes it on time anyway. The battle between the monsters that came from the gate and the special ability-possessing hunters still carries on, even after a decade since the gate's opening. An E-ranked hunter, Jin-Woo worked so he could afford his mother's healthcare and his sister's academic expenses. Defying the odds, Sung Jin-Woo had obtained the power of leveling up during his success in the double dungeon mission. Through his hard work and dedication, Jin-Woo had finally gotten his hands on the recipe for the elixir of life that cured all diseases and was now in command of the Shadow Soldiers as the Shadow Monarch. Back to the show. Gina is surprised that even her goofball of a big brother could shape up if he wanted to, offering to set Jin-Woo up with someone if he wanted it. Pinching her cheek like a child for talking nonsense, Jin-Woo and Jina walk over to the conference room, while the rest of the students chatter on about the dashing young man who had appeared at their school. During the conference, Jin-Woo is pleased to know that his sister was doing very well in school and right on track to entering a medical school. Although the mood shifts rapidly when his teacher brings up the possibility of her becoming a hunter if she awakened. Naturally, Jin-Woo expresses strong opposition on the matter immediately. Spotting Song-yi, Jin-Woo approaches her and reminds her who he was. Song-yi makes it clear right away that she had intentions of going back to school and wanted to continue on her path as a hunter. Jin-Woo answers he wasn't there to change her mind and instead asks her to accompany him. Meanwhile, Hunter Wang Dongsu returns to Japan with the sole purpose of crushing Jin-Woo and Jin-Ho in mind, sternly warning Jin-Chul not to interfere as he would stand no chance against him. Back to our hero. Jin-Woo arrives at a Sea Gate site where an on-site practice to get familiar with the terrain was being conducted with a 6-member assault team consisting of 2 C and 5 B rank hunters, all being led by Kim Chul, a tanker type A rank hunter. And now, it would become a 10-member mission with Jin-Woo and Song-yi's arrival. The team enters the gate. However, things start going haywire all of a sudden as red sparks start flowing out, and everyone but An and Hyun gets sucked in by the reddish gate. Jin-Woo tells An and Hyun to immediately contact the assault team. Over at the assault team, Yoon-ho is shocked to learn about the sudden appearance of the red gate as he prepares to head over right away. The team arrives in the middle of an Arctic dungeon, covered with snow everywhere, and their exit gone. Jin-Woo explains that red gates had dungeons behind them where you lose all contact with the rest of the world, and you could only get out by either defeating the boss there or when it collapses. All of a sudden, an arrow comes flying straight towards Song-yi, although Jin-Woo captures the icy arrow with his bare hands, saving her life. The same cannot, however, be said about one of the C-ranked hunters, who perishes on the spot. Jin-Woo spots the culprits, ice elves, who were considerably far away. Brutal in their methods of attack, white elves were known as ice slayers by hunters. Kim announces that everyone listened to him as he was the highest-ranked hunter there, and proposes they split into 2 groups to boost their chances of surviving. However, in an act of self-serving heartlessness, he forbids any C or below-ranked hunters from joining him. Since one day inside the dungeon was the equivalent of an hour outside, it could take them months before they were able to defeat the boss or before the gate collapsed itself. And thus, he was not going to quote-unquote let any dead weight come in his way. One of the B-rank hunters, Park Hee-jin, who Chul wanted in his group, surprises everyone by opting to join Jin-Woo's group instead of the apparently safer and stronger Kim Chul group. Chul, puzzled by her decision, wonders if she did it out of sympathy for the weaklings. However, the clever hunter had witnessed a glimpse of Jin-Woo's powers when he stopped that arrow from hitting Memberbus. Song-yi knew she had to be around him if she wanted to survive this dungeon. The 2 groups split up and head in opposite directions, with Chul's group going east, while Jin-Woo decides to take his group into the forest. On their way, one of Chul's group members spots ice bear claws on a tree, suggesting the mighty beast was present in the area. The party was over for the E-rankers, according to Chul, as there was no way they were surviving an ice bear. Suddenly, a thought crosses Chul's mind. Why did he converse with Jin-Woo, an E-ranked hunter, as if he were the leader when B ranks and C ranks were also present? But before he can think too much on it, a pack of huge ice bears abruptly interrupts his thought process. The first bear slashes its massive paw at Chul, who blocks it with his shield, crushing the bear's paw in the process. Then, with a single swing of his mighty sword, Kim Chul dispatches the first ice bear. Around the same time, Park Hee-jin also notices the abundance of ice bear claw marks everywhere, suggesting they head back right away. although Jin-Woo suggests the complete opposite, as he recommends they go further into the forest. His rationale was that no other magical being would be present in the ice bear's territory, and it would be far easier to tackle ice bears than the smarter ice elves. Park Hee-jin is impressed by Jin-Woo's critical thinking and agrees. Jin-Woo pulls out warm coats from his inventory, stunning everyone with his bizarre abilities. Jin-Woo then requests that everyone stay out of his way and not ask any questions regarding what Anti-5 and Embraceable is about to do, which is when a giant ice bear appears in front of the group. At the Red Gate's entrance, which was sealed from the outside now, Yoonho predicts that at best, the A and some B-ranked hunters would be able to make it out now, although An mentions Jin-Woo as well, putting his odds of surviving high since he suspected Jin-Woo had reawakened. Before Yoonho has a chance to further ask regarding this matter, Hwang Dong-soo shows up. He then proceeds to head up to the gate's entrance himself, grumbling that he wouldn't be able to get to Jin-Woo now, and he was probably going to die inside the Red Gate. Jin-Chul considers Jin-Woo extremely lucky to be inside the Red Gate right now, where even Hwang Dong-soo can't get to him. Simultaneously, Jin-Woo successfully eradicates the ice bears that had attacked his group. While his group leisurely feasts on tender ice bear meat, Jin-Woo heads out in search of the ice bear's lair so he could nip the problem right in the root. Several deadly eyes peer from within the ice bear cave. Jin-Woo, now the Shadow Monarch, summons his Shadow Army and decides to utilize them in their first battle. The bears charge, and Jin-Woo also signals his warriors to attack. The soldiers fight fiercely against the tyrannical ice bears, with his shadow mages providing useful backup. The battle goes on smoothly, however Jin-Woo's mana also keeps depleting. The shadow warriors finally take out every ice bear, but that's when the final boss, a humongous, mohawk mullet-donning ice bear boss, makes an entry. He quickly kills all of Jin-Woo's shadow warriors, depleting Jin-Woo's mana completely as well. Jin-Woo, still pretty calm and collected despite having lost his entire army, orders Igris to finally enter the battle. Igris demonstrates his elite swordsmanship by cutting the ice bear boss up all over in a matter of seconds, before lopping its head clean off as he lands his final blow. Jin-Woo thanks Igris for a splendid job, while the things couldn't be worse for Kim Chul's group, as they get brutally annihilated by the Ice Elves. Traumatized and in denial about the situation, Kim Chul experiences a breakdown and desperately tries to escape from the Ice Elves, while a dark, shadowy Ice Elf, probably the boss, looks on at him with terrible intent. Last time on Solo Leveling Season 2, after getting stuck inside a red gate, Kim splits the crew into two groups, taking the supposed stronger ones with him. However, with the help of his undead army, Jin-Woo keeps his group safe by easily tackling the hordes of ice bear monsters there, while Kim Chul's entire group gets annihilated by the Ice Elves, leaving only him alive as he tries to desperately escape, while Jin-Woo relaxes after defeating the boss Ice Bear with the help of Igris. Will Kim manage to get away? And what kind of fate awaits Jin-Woo when he finally encounters the Ice Elves? Let's find out in episode 2. The episode starts off with Jin-Woo using his necromancer skill on the dead ice bears to obtain an army of shadow warrior ice bears. Back at the sealed red gate, Yoonho mentions that around 3 days had already passed inside the gate by now. Hwang Dong-soo, who had come there to get Jin-Woo, says Jin-Woo probably died by now in the red gate and announces he's leaving. However, before doing so, he asks why exactly Jin-Woo was allowed to enter alongside the White Tiger Guild in the first place. An clarifies it was because he, a friend of Jin-Woo, did him a favor that he was able to enter, and the next second, his neck is in Hwang's hands. Yoonho immediately interferes, trying to defend a fellow member, and quickly the tensions between two S-tier hunters start escalating. Kim, battered and defeated, stumbles across multiple dead ice bears in front of it. Thinking it was the hand of the Ice Elves, he desperately tries to get away from there. Whereas back at the Red Gate entrance, Jin-Chul manages to stop Hwang and Yoonho's fight before it begins. Jin-Chul then explains to Hwang that he had already tested Jin-Woo to be an E rank, while the culprit behind his brother's death was most likely the magical beasts there. Hwang replies that he knew that was just a cover-up story, when in reality, it was probably Jin-Ho, the only other survivor. Upon Jin-Chul's asking, Hwang says that he wanted to take Jin-Woo's life just because he could, as the terrifying S-ranker leaves. Kim spots Jin-Woo's group, relaxing and laughing it out around a campfire while he was struggling to escape death, and loses it. As he charges at them, Jin-Woo quickly plasters his head in the snow, sending him crashing through it for blaming his shortcomings on others. Although Kim actually did manage to bring trouble with him as the entire Ice Elf army shows up behind him. Jin-Woo spots the boss of the Ice Elves and shockingly starts her. The Ice Elf boss tells Jin-Woo one of his men had noticed a worthy foe was here and wanted to fight him. But very abruptly, Jin-Woo sends that elf's head flying before the boss can even finish his sentence. Jin-Woo then strikes the boss next, although he quickly realizes he wasn't going to be that easy to kill as he stops Jin-Woo's attack with ease. The Ice Elf boss then asks Jin-Woo a very peculiar question. Why was Jin-Woo meddling amongst the humans when he was not one himself? This confuses Jin-Woo as the Ice Elf elaborates that a voice in their head told them to kill humans. However, that voice was absent when they saw Jin-Woo, suggesting he was one of them. Jin-Woo wonders if this had anything to do with him being a player now with his new ability. The boss elf then offers Jin-Woo a deal: hand over the humans and get away unharmed. Jin-Woo, of course, rejects the barbaric deal, making enemies of scores of deadly ice elves in the process. But Jin-Woo wasn't alone either, as he brought out his Shadow Warrior army the next instant. The boss elf then orders his men to attack as Jin-Woo follows suit, and so the battle begins. Heejin takes the others and quickly scurries the scene. While his army was boasting well against the ice elves, Jin-Woo realized that the ice elf boss was a different story. The elf boss introduces himself to Jin-Woo as Baruka, asking for Jin-Woo's name in return, as well as the 2 clash blades. Baruka gets hit by a giant fireball all of a sudden, revealed to be an attack from Jin-Woo's shadow mages. Around the same time, Kim regains consciousness, and having lost his sense completely, attacks Jin-Woo, blaming him for everything that happened to him. Attacked by Baruka from the front and Kim from the back simultaneously, the odds don't appear to look in his favor. However, Jin-Woo responds by fatally stabbing Kim through Igris, and by using his necromancer ability, he erects a huge hammer-wielding shadow warrior. Jin-Woo names this mighty tank Iron and orders him to fight Baruka. Baruka decides to take out Iron first, as the two engage in a fierce battle. Unsatisfied with Iron alone, Baruka tells Jin-Woo and Igris to both attack him as well. The 3 then take on Baruka together in perfect coordination. Iron diverts Baruka's focus, leaving Igris an opportunity to strike, although it proved to be another diversion for Jin-Woo's attack. Now all by himself, Baruka decides to take Jin-Woo out first. Jin-Woo throws his dagger at Baruka, who dodges it easily, but gets caught off guard when it boomerangs back at him. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Jin-Woo signals to Iron, who pops out of the snow behind him suddenly and grabs him. Then, the Shadow Mages blast Baruka with fireballs, dealing considerable damage. Enraged beyond limits, Baruka screams he'll kill everyone as Jin-Woo appears next to him the next second with his blade already piercing Baruka's abdomen. The battle ends right after that, when Iron pulverizes Baruka with his massive hammer. Jin-Woo then tells the others to come out as they had nothing to fear anymore. The gate appears again then, and the surviving hunters finally get to leave. At the other side of the door, Yoonho rejoices when he starts seeing silhouettes of people coming out of the gate, thinking it was Kim Chul. Although, to his surprise, it was only Heejin and another lower-ranked hunter, followed by Jin-Woo and Song-Yi. Confused about what happened to the rest of his team, Yoonho asks Jin-Woo about it. Although after his draining battle, Jin-Woo was in no mood for an interrogation and requests he ask the rest. Disgruntled at Jin-Woo for refusing him to carelessly, Yoonho insists he answer right away. Not intimidated in the slightest by the terrifying S-rank hunter before him, Jin-Woo gives him a fitting reply by calling him out for questioning the very man who saved his crew instead of showing gratitude. Yoonho quickly apologizes, and Jin-Woo leaves. Episode 3 starts off with Jinho seeing Jin-Woo's necromancer ability for the first time during one of their dungeon raids. Wondering how exactly he would explain all this to him, Jin-Woo tells him it's a bit hard to explain as he snaps his finger to command his shadow army to start harvesting the magic gems. With even his role as loot collector now not being needed, Jinho couldn't feel more useless, as one of the shadow warriors brings the magic gems over to him. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the world, a team of American hunters gets attacked by a mysterious, massively built man who had knocked everyone else out but one. The mystery man then attempts to communicate with the hunter in his broken English, identifying himself as a human and expressing his desire to return back home. During a celebratory barbecue together to celebrate the completion of 20 successful raids, Jinho gets sentimental, partly due to the booze that Jin-Woo didn't need him anymore. Unlike his 10-year senior older brother, Jin-Woo had been like a true older brother to him. Jin-Woo then takes out some liquor and toasts to being the older brother of Jinho from now on. Around the same time, the mystery man finds himself locked up behind bars. Named Sung Il-hwan, the man waited there for the arrival of Huang Dongsu, the S-ranked hunter who could also understand him. Jin-Woo tells his sister he is going on a trip with friends for a week, when in reality, he is going back to the hidden dungeon again. Gauging that he had leveled up around 3 times more than the level 20 he had when he fought the Cerberus, Jin-Woo feels confident about defeating it easily and enters the key, although he walks past without encountering it again. Once inside, a new mission pops up, which is to collect demon souls. Although the number, 10,000, was quite outrageous, Jin-Woo knew he had to do it for the elixir. Meanwhile, Jin-Ho meets up with his father and requests he hand over the Yujin Guild to him, stating that having an outsider become the guild master like his brother was too risky for their company. His father fires back with questions regarding the suspicious involvement of Jin-Woo in all the recent incidents, and even the Red Gate incident. His father asks if he still wanted Jin-Woo as their guild master, and Jin-Ho replies with a firm yes, under the condition that Jin-Ho will bring Jin-Woo over to their guild before the White Tiger Guild can secure him. Jin-Ho's father agrees to hand over the company to him. Done with the demons, Jin-Woo receives a permit to go up a floor. Seeing how walking this much could be tiring, Jin-Woo summons the boss Ice Bear to ride on. As he rams through the demons in their way, Jin-Woo decides to name him Tank. During her swim, Haein recalls her meeting with Jonghyun, where he advised her to keep quiet about the evolving monsters they had seen on the island, while at the dungeon, Jin-Woo cruises through the first 48 levels with ease, crushing enemies while imagining the growth he'll have by the time he reaches the top, which he believes would be floor 100. At level 49 now, Jin-Woo faces a huge army of demons, while an enormous red one, dubbed the Lord of the Lower Floors, Avaricious Vulcan, sat idly on a throne. While in the real world, An and Heejin search for Jin-Woo, who had suddenly disappeared without a trace leading up to where he was. Jin-Woo engages his army against the lower floor bosses. As Jin-Woo's shadow warriors battle the demon soldiers, the giant one continues to watch, but doesn't interfere. However, just as soon as Jin-Woo starts to realize this, the boss demon vanishes from his throne in the blink of an eye and appears behind him the next instant, wiping out Igris and several others in one blow. Jin-Woo retaliates with a punch that sends it flying, but it's up the next second and rains a barrage of super fast, heavy blows on Jin-Woo. By calling to Iron at the last second, Jin-Woo manages to shield himself from them. Attacking the gigantic brute, Jin-Woo quickly learns that not only was it very invulnerable, but was also accurately predicting Jin-Woo's movements. Thinking he had to change it up if he wanted to get anywhere here, Jin-Woo leads the monster directly into a building. While it's rocked for a brief moment from the collision, Jin-Woo brings out his dagger and with one swift strike, slices the neck of the red beast. Back in America, Hwang Dong-soo interrogates Il-won. Hwang appears to believe that Il-won was a magical beast, trying to trick them, while Il-won assures him he could test his DNA if he wanted to confirm his identity. Il-won then asks Hwang how much humans actually knew about the gates and magical beasts. Calling those just premonitions, Il-won reveals that the true threat still awaited them. He says it again and again, considering most people completely helpless against it, to emphasize the significance of this calamity that was waiting to unfold. He then goes on to say it was his job to prevent that from happening. Hwang doesn't buy anything coming from him, and instead focuses on the fact that Il-won was actually the father of Jin-Woo. Hwang tells Il-won that his son was already dead, asking for any last words before he met the same fate, enraging the mystery man. We shift to Jin-Woo for a brief moment, who had just defeated Metus, the Guider of Souls, to clear level 75, and as we come back, the battle was already over. Hwang Dong-soo was defeated by Il-won in a flash, according to witness reports, while the destruction caused as a result of their fight was devastating too. Jin-Woo decides to pause at level 75 for the moment as he equips the items he got along the way, as well as getting a mystery key. His true goal of obtaining the elixir of life for his mom was progressing well, as he had managed to collect 2 of the 3 items necessary for making it through his journey so far. Last time on Solo Leveling Season 2, Jin-Woo re-enters the secret dungeon again, now far more powerful than before. Meanwhile, Sun Il-won, Jin-Woo's biological father, gets released from a dungeon after 10 years, bearing ominous news about an apparent world-ending threat. He defeats Hwang Dong-soo without any difficulty, while Jin-Woo decides to pause at floor 75 of the dungeon. Will the two be meeting each other soon? And what threat exactly was Il-won speaking of? Stay tuned to find out in Episode 4. Episode 4 starts off with Jin-Woo exiting the secret dungeon. Now only in need of purified Demon King's blood, since he had the other 2 items needed for the elixir of life in his possession, Jin-Woo realizes he must participate in higher ranked dungeons in order to keep leveling up. But being an E rank wouldn't allow him to do that, so he decides to finally stop hiding his powers and get a re-evaluation for Hunter rank. At the evaluation center, Jin-Woo gets recognized right away by Hyun, who immediately calls Yoon-ho to inform him about it. Yoon-ho leaves abruptly to come over there in person, while Jin-Woo's turn comes up for Hunter rank evaluation. He puts his hand on the black sphere, and the reading shows an error. The lady operating it asks him to do it again, but the issue persists. That's when the director comes in, and after seeing the same error for himself, he clarifies that this meant that Jin-Woo was the 10th S-ranked hunter of Japan. Jong-in, during a chat with Jin-Chol, tries to pry into the Red Gate case, and about the person who conquered it more specifically, when suddenly a bunch of commotion starts coming from the evaluation center. The two head over to have a look and find Jin-Woo being surrounded by a crowd of hunters, whispering around about him being the 10th S-ranked hunter in Japan. Jin-Woo instantly recognizes Jong-in, the famous fire-type hunter nicknamed the Ultimate Hunter. Jong-in extends his hand out to greet Jin-Woo but gets dismissed like any ordinary person by Jin-Woo, who excuses himself for being busy at the moment, leaving the representative of the Hunters Guild stunned. As soon as he leaves without leaving any trace, Yoonho comes charging in, asking for Jin-Woo. Jong-in reaches the conclusion that Jin-Woo must have been the one who conquered the Red Gate based on how desperate Yoonho was to come to recruit him himself so desperately. Jong-in then leaves while Yoonho grits his teeth, as he was the last person he wanted to know about Jin-Woo. Later in the day, Jin-Woo pays a visit to his mother at the hospital, promising to get her back to normal soon. Although, as he's leaving, he finds Jin-Chol waiting for him there. Uninterested in conversing with him, Jin-Woo begins to leave when Jin-Chol entices him to stay by introducing Chairman Go of the Hunter Association to him the next second. The two sit down for a little chat, where Go breaks the news to Jin-Woo that he is now an S-ranked hunter, and congratulates him for it. Not beating around the bush, he then gets to the reason for meeting Jin-Woo, which was to recruit him into the association. With the 5 hunter guilds barely balanced as is, an S-rank like Jin-Woo joining one of them could seriously throw off the balance. So he wished the association could become the 6th power in the country, and for that, he needed someone like Jin-Woo. He offers Jin-Woo a prestigious position at the association. Jin-Woo contemplates it, considering all the power and money in it, not to mention the learning opportunity from a beaming veteran like Go, but ends up eventually declining his offer, stating his hunger for battle as his reason. This answer shocks Go, who finds a kindred spirit in Jin-Woo and wishes he were 10 years younger so he could fight him. Jin-Woo takes his leave and heads back home, thinking about leveling up as fast as possible to heal his mother. Meanwhile in America, a banged up and bruised Hwang Dong-soo gets a hospital visit from the deputy director of the American Guild. He asks him regarding the true nature of Il-won, if he was really a magical beast. Hwang insists there was no denying he was one, as he recalls the warning Il-won gave him after defeating him so easily. Furious from his humiliating defeat, Hwang plans to equip himself with an artifact that could crush Il-won. Artifacts were mythical items found in dungeons that no human could craft, and were sold online. Jin-Woo searches for some to equip himself better for the dungeon, but they all fetch hefty prices. Around the same time, Chairman Go, who was looking into Jin-Woo's past records, gets the news that he had joined the Hunters Guild's mining mission, making him even more curious about Jin-Woo. The mining team was responsible for collecting mana crystals during raids. Jin-Woo blends in as an average E-ranked hunter among them. Inside the dungeon, Jong-in displays his terrifying powers as he sets ablaze the monsters of the dungeon with just a snap of his fingers, exiting the dungeon with none of his crew even bruised. Walking behind him is Hae-in, the dancer, who was the 9th S-ranked hunter of Japan. She notices Jin-Woo's presence and looks around, but Jin-Woo evades her. Jin-Woo and the miners get called inside, where Jin-Woo feels the magical powers emitting from the A-ranked dungeon boss, and gets excited about the idea of fighting it to verify its strength. Even in this line of work, the scrutiny against low-ranked hunters existed as a burly guy bumped into Jin-Woo, acting all tough. Although sensing Jin-Woo's bloodlust, he wisely backs down immediately. Jin-Woo stuns his coworkers with his extreme work ethic as he tears through the mana crystals without stopping. He then heads over to where the boss was during his lunch break, but before he can get to it, he gets stopped by Hae-in. Episode 5 picks up from where the last episode ended, with Hae-in finding Jin-Woo at the gate to the dungeon boss's lair. She starts asking what he was doing there by himself, reminding him of the danger of the final boss and the catastrophic damage provoking him could end up causing him and his team. Jin-Woo, trying not to act suspicious, tells her he was just lost and starts heading back to his group when Hae-in suddenly notices something about him as he passes by her. She asks him to stop and abruptly walks up to him, sticking her face close to his chest and taking a whiff. While she's surprised that Jin-Woo, unlike other hunters, didn't give off a nasty scent, Jin-Woo gets caught completely off guard as she confirms if he really was a hunter. Shocked by a pleasant scent coming from a hunter, she speculates it must have to do with his low rank, as she dismisses him after their awkward encounter. After regrouping, Jin-Woo learns that Hae-in usually always keeps her distance from other hunters due to her sensitive sense of smell, although for some reason that was not the case with him. He wonders if it had anything to do with him being a player, only to then ponder exactly what that meant as well. Thanks to his exceptional mining work, Jin-Woo is showered with praises, after his shift and even gets a full-time job offer. He refuses this. However, the opportunity to carry out a dual raid of an A and C rank dungeon the next day intrigues him, and he agrees. Meanwhile, Hae-in tries digging into Jin-Woo's past, only to find out most of the data on him was being kept hidden by the association. This piques her interest even more in the first hunter she met, who had a pleasant scent. Back to working in the mines, Jin-Woo is met with bittersweet feelings as he's greeted by the mining team that reminds him of his former team. Jin-Woo carries out yet another successful shift as he enjoys his meal with his colleagues. The captain of the A-rank dungeon's second assault team, Sun Ki-hoon, shows up asking for any volunteers to help them with equipment carrying. No one comes forward, not considering the risks worth the reward, except for Jin-Woo. His team tries to talk him out of it, but Ki-hoon reassures him that he doesn't need to worry. The second assault team, made up of 6 A rankers and 3 B rankers, would be a first team anywhere else, attesting to the Hunters Guild's power. Walking through the gate, Jin-Woo gets an eerie feeling similar to the double dungeon, as if something was off. Suddenly, the team gets into a combat stance, simultaneously as they sense danger. A pack of dungeon jackals appears, although, for these hunters, they were child's play as they wiped them out in no time. The appearance of these C-ranked beasts in an A-ranked dungeon raises everyone's suspicions as Jin-Woo spots a collar on one, suggesting they were perhaps being used as hunting dogs. Then, to ring Jin-Woo's initial suspicions true, a horde of high orcs comes out. The mighty beast throws its spear at one of the hunters and almost manages to take him out as the orcs begin their charge. The orcs' toughness and immense power get demonstrated right away as they put up a tough fight against the hunters. The hunters retaliate, but their efforts don't prove to be enough against these brutish foes who start overwhelming them. One of the B-ranked hunters gets his arm chopped off, but help arrives in time, and the team healer starts healing him. However, another orc appears all of a sudden, and it seems as if all hope was lost. That's when the magical beast starts choking suddenly. It was Jin-Woo, strangling it while using stealth to remain invisible. Jin-Woo then rips the orc apart out of its spine and continues to assist his team by inflicting damage on the orcs while staying hidden, since he wasn't going to just let his team die, but didn't want to show off being the outsider. The assault team starts gaining momentum against the orcs gradually, and finally manages to defeat them all, as Ki-hoon slices the last one dead. Jin-Woo then casually collects his equipment, as if he didn't do anything, while the rest of the team takes a sigh of relief. While some members wonder about the strange behavior the orcs started exhibiting randomly, the spectral magic caster of the group had seen Jin-Woo doing all that he did, but she decided to stay quiet about it, thinking he probably had his reasons. Ki-hoon decides they should head back for now. As they approach the exit, they find a barrier over it. The mages try to lift it, but take immense damage by attempting to do so. That's when a giant horde of orcs, about 50 in total, appears. One of the orcs walks to the front and starts yelling gibberish. The same orc, as though possessed now, starts speaking English all of a sudden and introduces Kargalgan, the orc sorcerer leader of the orc tribe. Kargalgan then gives Ki-hoon 2 choices. Either they come meet him or die at the hands of his soldiers. Ki-hoon picks the former and tells Jin-Woo to escape through the gate while they attack the boss, stating their mission was to close the gate rather than return alive. One of the female hunters hands Jin-Woo her will and requests he hand it over to her family in case the worst happens. This air of despair reminds Jin-Woo of the double dungeon mission. Jin-Woo reassures them that things hopefully won't turn out that way. Simultaneously, Hae-in shows up at the gate entrance looking for Jin-Woo, only to find out he had actually gone inside the A-ranked dungeon, despite being just an E-rank. The second assault team arrives at the orc boss's grand lair, as the terrifying orc king, Kargalgan, welcomes them there. Stay connected, like and subscribe for more fun recaps on one and only Endless Recaps.